Maniga Dukkha Kati Gonyi Sude Gongsin Hore Paṇḍitā Vibhanga Tukube Celebido Hovabe.
Today's talk will be a continuation of yesterday's, and it will be part 2 of wonder not out, nor stay in.
Maniga Pisema Labido Mashuna a being twetted say look Biovada. Pisema Shuna Luciano a being a twetto who lower dollar Sashi Kilida in a Mayoro who Jodia only don't go to go. Malaido who say the Tanshin Wabi so that they were Yava. I will say the Tanshin or Suzu Sai Pisse lady Labido, my Yavada.
It was discussed yesterday how the mind that is able to be present, that is able to be aware of present occurrences at the very moment of occurrence, is called a non-wandering mind. And how a mind which is not able to do that is a wandering mind. Further, it was illustrated how this wandering mind is actually a mind that is mixed up with greed, hatred, and delusion.
Suzu Sai Shu Sure Shiva Mesure Zagazudema Suzu Sai Shu Sureha Sandovogu Piovada Tini Eddie Saniri Chong Tabido Shimbama.
The mind that is able to be present, the mind that is not wandering, is in fact the mind that is penetratively being mindful of what is happening. Now the word penetrative needs some explanation. Penetrative here refers to a certain factor of jhana. It is somewhat connected to certain jhana factors, which the Sayadaw will deal with tonight.
Pavilo jhana lo call the Rono Sara Jayati Aramana Upa Nichayati jhana Ayungu Shugu Kapiro Shudalu Janlu Kore Era Jana at the Bawa Suicide who Kapiro Shuda Same Sura Puyo Yogi Matabu.
Why is jhana so named? Sayadaw was giving a definition of the word in Pali, and it says that it is called jhana because of the ability to stick to an object and observe it. So this jhana, which is often translated as absorption, refers to that quality of mind that is able to stick to an object and observe it.
ဥပမာပြောလို့ရှိရင်ရှင်းပြတဲ့မှာခြုံထက်တဲ့အရာဝတ္ထုပေါ့လေကိုစိုက်လို့တဲ့စီတည်တည်ချာချာစိုက်ချလိုက်လို့ရှိရင်စူးပြီးတော့ဝင်သွားတာဟာပဲအဲ့ဒီကဇန်သဘောပဲ
ဘာနဲ့ဆိုင်
ရှင်းပြတဲ့မှာခြုံထက်တဲ့အရာပေါ့လေခြုံထက်တဲ့အရာတစ်ခုစိုက်လိုက်လို့ရှိရင်စူးဝင်သွားတယ်လို့အဲ့ဒီမှာမျိုး
ခြုံတဲ့ဆိုတော့
ခြုံတဲ့ဆိုတော့ point ပေါ့လေ sharp ဖြစ်တဲ့အရာလာလို့ပါလေလား
ခြုံတဲ့မှာလားAn illustration may perhaps make this point clear. Imagine that there's something in the mud, which is, and you would like to take it up. If you make use of a very sharp instrument and pierce it into that thing in the mud, then it will go right through.
ဒီနည်းအားဖြင့်လည်းပဲစားဝတ်တောက်ခွဲထဲမှာပါလာတဲ့အတုံးလေးတွေပေါ့လေအာလူတုံးလေးတွေလိုဟာမျိုးပေါ့အဲ့ဒီထဲမှာခရင်နဲ့စိုက်လိုက်တဲ့အခါမှာဝင်သွားတယ်လို့ပေါ့ရောက်သွားတယ်လို့ပေါ့လေဒီမှာအဲ့ဒါမျိုးဇန်သဘောပါပဲ
Or you could also see this point quite clearly in the example of using a fork during your mealtime. Take a fork and you stab it into a piece of food that you want to eat. That stabbing through, that penetrating, that piercing of the fork is an illustration of this jhanic quality.
အဲ့ဒါကဇာနာဆိုတာဘယ်လိုသဘောရှိတယ်ဆိုတာနားလည်သွားပါပြီဘယ်နဲ့အမျိုးအစားဘယ်လောက်ရှိတယ်ဆိုတာနားလည်ဖို့လိုပါသေးတယ်
So now all of you would have understood what is meant by jhana, or the quality of jhana. What needs to be done now is to enumerate the different sorts of jhanas.
Jhana kaတစ်အာရမဏုပနိဉ္ဇာနာတစ်မျိုးနှစ်လက္ခဏုပနိဉ္ဇာနာတစ်မျိုးနှစ်မျိုးရှိပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီနှစ်မျိုးတွေကအာရမဏုပနိဉ္ဇာနာဆိုတာပထဝီကတိုင်းအစရှိတဲ့သမထအာယုန်တွေကိုစူးစူးဆိုင်ဆိုင်ရှုတဲ့ဥပစာရဇာနဲ့အတူတမဘာရှိပါကိုအာရမဏုပနိဉ္ဇာလို့ပြောပါတယ်
အနာဘယ်လိုပြန်လဲအာရမဏိက
အာရမဏုပနိဉ္ဇာနာအာရမဏအာယုန်ကတိုင်းအစရှိတဲ့အာယုန်တွေကိုဥပနိဉ္ဇာနာကပ်ပြီးတော့အပြေးဝရှုတာ
No, yeah. Basically, there are two types of jhanas. The first one is the jhana that is able to be fixedly aware of the object of meditation. And that object of meditation refers to a conceptual object like a kasina or a disc of color or light and so forth, used as a visual object in tranquility meditation.
တနည်းအားဖြင့်လည်းပဲလွယ်လွယ်မှတ်ဖို့ရာအာနုပ္ပမနိစ္စံကိုတမထဇံလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်စိတ်တည်ငြိမ်အောင်ပြုလုပ်တဲ့ဇံပေါ့လေအာယုတစ်ခုထဲမှာစိုက်ပြီးတော့စူးစိုက်ကြာနေအောင်လို့ရှုတဲ့ဇံဒါတမထဇံလို့လည်းခေါ်ပါတယ်
Now this sort of jhana is called Aramanupannichana in Pali, but it is also popularly called Samatha jhana because it's the jhana that is directly related to shamatha practice, which means that it is a sort of absorption that one gets into by developing tranquility meditation. It tranquilizes the mind, it stills the mind, makes it very peaceful and calm.
Lakkhana saraga Lakkhana upanijana Lakkhana ga yonaတရားတို့ရဲ့လက္ခဏာ3ပါးအနိစ္စလက္ခဏာဒုက္ခလက္ခဏာအနတ္တလက္ခဏာပေါ့လေပြီးတော့နိဗ္ဗာန်ရဲ့တထလက္ခဏာပေါ့လေငြိမ်းချမ်းတဲ့မှန်ကန်တဲ့လက္ခဏာဒါလက္ခဏာအရာယူပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါလိုယုံနာတရားတို့ရဲ့လက္ခဏာ3ပါးနဲ့နိဗ္ဗာန်ရဲ့ငြိမ်းအေးမှန်ကန်မှုကိုစူးစူးစိုက်ရှုတဲ့ဝိပဿနာမဲ့ဖို့တရားများကိုလက္ခဏာနေစာလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်
Now this samatha jhana refers also to the excess concentration that is developed while one is striving for tranquility. The second sort of jhana is called Lekhanupannichana, which is the absorption or the ability of the mind to stay focused in observing the characteristics of impermanence, of suffering, and non-self. It also includes the mind that is able to stay fixed and focused while observing nirvana, the peace and tranquility and bliss of nirvana. In short, this second sort of jhana refers to the various Vipassana insights and the path and fruition.
Tira Lakkhana Nisa Tum Yorega Agulolo se Yiji de how quite hobido Pure Mesoloshi Vipassana Jhana Lube Sujabasu Vipassana Santa Mu Surabolina.
As we can see, within this second category of Lekhanupannichana, there are three other subcategories, which is the various Vipassana insights and the Aryan path and the Aryan fruition. For the sake of convenience, Sada would like to deal with or classify them generally as Vipassana jhana.
Yeah, Samatha jhana ne Vipassana jhana.
So we can understand these two types of jhanas as Samatha jhana and Vipassana jhana.
Eri Sandamio Chana Jagaro, Tuja Bungaro Samatha Janga Say Dinyo Hia, I would who am a car video Dinyo Hia. Shoot it how Samatha Zanlu Kovare Yona Tabawa Lekana, Tamina Lekanari, who suicide say, shoot it Zanguro, Vipassana, San look Kovare.
Tabawa Lekana, Tamina Lekana. The important difference between these two sorts of jhanas lies in the fact that the first is absorption on a particular and fixed object of meditation, while the other is concerned with absorption in the natural characteristics and common characteristics of mental and physical phenomena. So the first type of jhana, samatha jhana, is primarily concerned with tranquilizing the mind, because it focuses the mind on one particular unchanging object, and the mind just stays there very peacefully and tranquil. The other one, however, is different in the sense that there is no fixed object.
The near level the Maripio Atudaga, the Matazan, the Matani Koviro Nyampio Atudaga, Ubatana Niva.
Another way of looking at it is that the samatha jhana is the path of tranquility, the path of developing pure concentration, whereas vipassana jhana is the path of developing insight and wisdom.
The near level Pinya Ayod Hurema Sikali the sete Ni on Atonida, Tamadazan Kovido. The gay a sheet Yona Brahma Ayonego, Susu say Shuda, Uvatana Sama.
Another way of looking at it is that samatha jhana involves focusing the mind on one single conceptual object. Focusing the mind on one single conceptual object without wavering, not allowing the mind to wander off elsewhere, but just staying with that one object. Vipassana jhana, on the other hand, is the focusing of the mind on paramattha dhammas, or which is usually translated as ultimate reality.
Sankhara Paramattha Dhamma.
Okay, Sankhara Paramattha Dhamma, which means conditioned ultimate realities. Ultimate realities here refer to all those things that one can experience directly through any of the six sense doors without going through any conceptual thinking or reasoning or intellectual process.
Agutadivata niya Atudaha, Agu Atoniraha Yona Tikara Diaru yet the Bawalakana, Tingra Lakanari, Dio, Atolidava. Piro di Diari ha the Mure Lepo, a Mew, Kurema, born in a lepsita. Piro the game Yamautu in the absent Paramata absent Levatin Shani, the Diari lepsita. Piro Dilo in the absent shoot up shit out, Vipassana, shooting a Bokuri, shooting the Suapa.
Yogis who are meditating according to Satipatthana, Vipassana meditation are actually looking at mental and physical phenomenon in order to penetrate into their individual and common characteristics. Now, mental and physical phenomenon, of course, are included in Sankhara Paramattha Dhamma, which means that they are conditioned ultimate realities. But these conditioned ultimate realities, these things that we can experience directly through our sense doors without going through any conceptualizing or intellectualizing or reasoning, do not always remain the same. They are in a constant state of flux.
Told me to let it pure and solution. Sujabazo 1 by 6 I had. You don't let the Kajaro, Pomu Kore, down in Lucia, you do the volley. Chipola. Taha, why a diga yobe. She wouldn't sabi of people at Amuludu, think Haralo Kore. A Joan Bonso, you knew of people at the Tiali. The boy in the action level down at dinner, Lota, you shara body. Yamodu in the avian tinshani there. Era lego suicide video cashew. Era Ubatana Same.
It will not, therefore, be wrong for us to say that yogis who are practicing Satipatthana Vipassana are in fact developing Vipassana jhanas. To make this point even clearer, the Sada would like to draw your attention to a practical demonstration. Now you're sitting. Perhaps you could direct your attention to the rise and fall of the abdomen. If you're able to note the rising process and be aware of what is happening in the rising process, you will come to observe that the rising process consists of certain sensations of tightness, of tautness, of expansion, of movement perhaps, and so forth. Now, this rising and falling process is included in Sankhara Paramattha Dhamma, or conditioned ultimate realities, because they are occurring due to a cause. The rising and falling occur because breathing is going on. So it is dependent on a previous cause. It is therefore a conditioned phenomena. In the rising and falling, you will observe that there are various sensations happening. If you are aware, for example, of movement of tenseness, tautness, expansion, tightness, constriction, etc. You are actually experiencing the air element in technical terms. The air element is a technical term which can be experienced as movement, or tightness, or tautness, constriction, tenseness, expansion, and so forth.
Anapana arude puku miyaleve nadiwa ma sikali saithara. Wa liga wenlai twalai ne shi ni ba. Nadiwa ko totoပြီးတော့သွားနေတာ။အဲ့ဒီnadiwa totoပြီးတော့သွားနေတဲ့လေသဘောတရားလေးတွေတေချာသိရအောင်လို့စူးစိုက်ပြီးတော့ရှုနေတာ။အဲ့ဒီတိုးတိုးနေတဲ့လေတွေဟာရှုခြင်းနဲ့စိတ်ရှိုက်ခြင်းနဲ့စိတ်ကြောင့်ဖြစ်ပေါ်တဲ့သင်္ခါရယုတ်တရားတွေပဲ။အဲ့ဒီယုတ်တရားတွေရဲ့တိုးတဲ့တွန်းတဲ့ထိပါတဲ့သဘောလေးတွေကိုတေချာသိရအောင်လို့စူးစိုက်ပြီးတော့ရှုနေတာ။အဲ့ဒါဥပဒနာဆံမယ်တိုးတာလေးတွေလှုပ်တာလေးတွေထိပါတာလေးတွေပေါ့။အဲ့ဒီသိအောင်နော်
For those of you who are practicing Anapanasati, having the in and out breath as a basic object, the same principle applies. When you are concentrating your attention at your nose tip, at your nostrils, you will be able to feel the air coming in and going out. It is expressed or manifest in terms of the sensations you feel at the nose tip. It could be a pushing or a pulling movement, or an impinging effect, and so forth. So all of these, or rather this in-breath and out-breath, the contact that is made at the nostrils, belong to this category of sankhara paramattha dhamma, conditioned ultimate reality, because they are conditioned into existence. There is the intention to breathe in and the intention to breathe out, and as a result of that, the air is taken in and is blown out of the nostrils, and so the air makes contact or impinges on the area at the nose tip. So the whole purpose of concentrating one's attention at the nose tip, in accordance with the Satipatthana method, is so that one may be able to penetrate into the actual qualities and nature of what is happening there. One comes to feel the various sensations at the nose tip, which was mentioned just now. And that also is another case of developing Vipassana jhana.
ထို့အတူပဲမြင်ကြိုက်ကြားကြိုက်နားကြိုက်စားကြိုက်ထိကြိုက်တီးကြိုက်အစရှိတဲ့ဓဝါချဘောကဖြစ်ပြနေတဲ့အခန္ဓာတိုက်တာအပွင့်တာယုံနာသင်္ခါရတရားတွေရဲ့သဘာဝလက္ခဏာနဲ့တမညာလက္ခဏာလေးတွေသိရအောင်လို့စူးစူးဆိုင်ဆိုင်လိုက်ပြီးတော့ရှုနေတာလည်းပဲဒါဥပဒနာဆံပါပဲလူရင်းကတော့ကိုယ်တည်းကထင်ရှားပေါ်သမျှလေးတွေပေါ်စဲလိုက်ပြီးတော့ရှုနေတာဒါဥပဒနာဆံပါပဲ
Mindfulness at the respective sense doors, trying to penetrate into the true nature of what is happening at each of the respective sense processes, follows this same principle. There is diligent effort and penetrative awareness that is focusing on what is happening at a particular sense process, then the mind will be able to understand or comprehend the true nature of what is happening. The mind may be able to pick up the receptor element, or the striker element, or the ignition element, whichever may be more predominant at any one time. So one can see that being mindful of whatever that arises at any of the six sense doors in a very penetrative and focused manner, in order to penetrate into their true nature, their individual and common characteristics, is in fact a process of developing Vipassana jhana.
Edi jhana Stuka ni ya solution no san leba shi ba de. Patama sana, dutiya sana, tatiya sana, saruddha sana ye lu li myu ba be.
According to the fourfold way of reckoning, there are four jhanas: the first, second, third, and fourth.
Patama jhana ma jhaninga sayinga 5 ပါး ရှိပါတယ်။အဲ့ဒီsayinga 5 ပါး သိဖို့လိုပါတယ်။
In the first jhana, 5 jhana factors are present.
အဲ့ဒီ 5 ပါးကတော့ 1. ဝိတက်ကရွယ်စုခြင်းချိန်ရွယ်ပေးခြင်းပေါ့လေ။အာယုန်နဲ့မစိတ်နဲ့တက်အောင်လို့ချိန်ရွယ်ပေးခြင်း။တနည်းအားဖြင့်လည်းပဲအာယုန်အသေးကလေးတွေထင်ရှားအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့စိတ်ညွတ်ညွတ်ပေးခြင်းဒါဝိတက်ကဉာဏ်ငါခေါ်ပါတယ်။
The first one is called vitakka, which is actually an aiming process, aiming the mind accurately at the object of observation, directing the mind towards the object, pointing the mind towards the object of observation.
ရှုသိတဲ့စိတ်ကလေးရှုခွင့်ရှုခွက်ပေါ်မှာရောက်သွားအောင်လို့တင်တင်ပို့တဲ့သဘောလေးပေါ့လေဒီမှာအဲ့ဒါဝိတက်ဉာဏ်ပါပဲ
It is also manifested as the placing of the mind onto the object of observation, aiming the mind and bringing it and placing it onto the object of observation.
သူကရွယ်တဲ့သဘောချိန်တဲ့သဘောလေးပါနေတယ်ပြီးတော့စူးစိုက်တဲ့သဘောလေးလည်းပါနေတာမဟုတ်လို့သူ့ကိုဝိတက်ကဉာဏ်ငါလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်
In fact, it has two aspects, and one is the aiming or the pointing, the directing towards the object of observation, and the other is a fixing, an establishing, a staying on to the object.
ဝိจารဆိုတာကတော့သုံးတတ်တယ်ခေါ်တယ်သုံးတတ်တယ်ဆိုတာပွတ်တိုက်တာပါပဲဝိတက်ကရှုသိတဲ့စိတ်ရှုွက်ပေါ်မှာရောက်အောင်ရွယ်စုပြီးတော့ရွယ်ချိန်ပြီးတော့တင်ပို့ပေးလိုက်တော့ရှုသိတဲ့စိတ်ကလေးဟာဟုတ်လားအာယုန်နဲ့ပွတ်တိုက်တဲ့ကဲ့သို့ဖြစ်သွားတာအနုမကျနဆိုတာပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီပွတ်တိုက်တာကိုပဲသမစနာသုံးတတ်တယ်ခေါ်ဝိจารသုံးတတ်တယ်ခေါ်တာပါပဲစင်ញင်တယ်ခေါ်တာပါပဲအဲ့ဒီဝိจารဟာလည်းပဲစင်ញင်သုံးတတ်ပြီးတော့စူးစိုက်တတ်တာမဟုတ်လို့သူ့ကိုဇာနေငါ ဆိုင်ငါတစ်ခုအနေနဲ့ဒီမှာပါနေပါတယ်
The second jhana factor is called vichara, which is sometimes translated as investigation or reflection, which does not do justice to what is actually its main purpose or characteristic. While the first jhana factor of vitakka, of aim and placing, is able to aim the mind and bring it and place it onto the object of observation, vichara actually continues to rub the mind onto the object, so to speak.
လက်တွေ့အနေနဲ့ပြောရလို့ရှိရင်အခုဝမ်းမိုက်စိုက်ပြီးတော့ရှုနေတဲ့အခါဖောက်တက်လာတာနဲ့ဒီဟာရှုမှတ်တဲ့စိတ်နဲ့ချိန်သားကိုက်ဖြစ်အောင်လို့ချိန်ရွယ်ပေးတဲ့သဘောလေးရွယ်စုတဲ့သဘောလေးပါသွားပြီရွယ်စုပြီးတော့မှတ်လိုက်တော့အဲ့ဒီဖောက်မှုနဲ့ဒီဟာရှုသိတဲ့စိတ်ကလေးနဲ့ပုတ်တိုက်တဲ့ကဲသို့ဖြစ်သွားတာဝိသရာသဘောလေးလည်းပါသွားတယ်ဒီမှာအဲ့ဒါပဲဒီမှာဆိုင်ကနှစ်ခုပါသွားတယ်ဒီမှာ
Well, to bring you back to earth, so to speak. Let's say you're watching your rising and falling, and you're trying very hard. You're putting in a lot of diligent effort to be mindful of the process. You're trying to be precise in your aim. You aim your mindfulness very carefully at the rising process, and your mind gets there. But it does not just slip off, but it sort of hits the rising and falling and sort of touches it, sort of rubs it, sort of impinge on it. So that is that quality of the second jhana factor of vichara.
ပိနေခိုက်တာမှာလည်းပဲဤသူအခြားခြားကိုယ်ရဲ့ပေါ်သမျှအာယုန်ဒီပေါ်တိုင်းပေါ်လေအဲဒီမှာစိအားဆိုင်ချိန်သားခိုက်ပြီးတော့ဆွဆွမြဲမြဲချိန်သားခိုက်ပြီးတော့ပေါ့လေထိအောင်မိအောင်တမဆူးဆိုင်ပြီးတော့ရှုနေတာအဲ့တော့ဝိတ္တဝိသရာတွေအမြဲတစေပါနေပါတယ်
If one is actually being very mindful, putting in a lot of diligent effort, trying to be with each moment of arising of mental or physical phenomena within oneself, then at that moment, both these jhanic factors of good aim, precise aim, accurate aim, and impingement or rubbing are present.
အဲ့ဒါလိုရှုပါများတော့ချိန်သားကြိုက်ပြီးတော့ထိထိမိမိရှုပါများတော့ကမိစ္ဆန္ဒအစရှိတဲ့နိဂောရဏတရားတွေဝိမလာတော့ဘူးစိတ်ကိုလည်းအနှောက်အယှက်မပေးတော့ဘူးစိတ်ကိုလည်းညင်ထည့်အောင်မလုပ်တော့ဘူးစိတ်တွေဟာထူးထူးခြားခြားကြီးလာတယ်ပြပါဒနိဂောရဏတွေလည်းဝိမလာဘူးပြီးတော့ဒီမှာကပြင်းတဲ့သဘောပေါ့လေဥဒိဌိနမိတ်တာလည်းပဲဝဲမလာတော့ဘူးပြန့်လွင်တာလည်းမရှိပူပန်တာလည်းမရှိတကယ်ကိုယုံကြည်ခြင်းနဲ့လည်းပဲအားထုတ်နေတယ်ဆိုတော့ဥဒိကြကုတ်ကုတ်ကြဝိจิကိစ္စအစရှိတဲ့နိဝရဏတရားတွေဒီမှာကင်းနေတာတစ်ချက်မှတစ်ချက်ကင်းတစ်ချက်မှတစ်ချက်ကင်းနေတာပဲဒီမှာအဲ့ဒါစိတ်ကလေးဟာတန့်ရှင်းတယ်ကြည်လင်းနေတာပေါ့
So if this very diligent and conscientious effort is made to be mindful in a very penetrative and accurate way from moment to moment, then the mind becomes more and more purified. It is more and more purified of the hindrances, the hindrance of sensual desire, of aversion, of anger, the hindrance of sloth and torpor, of drowsiness, of laziness in the practice, and the hindrance of restlessness. When the mind is able to focus on the object of meditation, then there is no occasion for restlessness to occur. There's no occasion for scatteredness or dispersal or dissipation of the mind to occur. And it becomes pretty obvious also that when these hindrances are absent and the mind is fixedly concentrating on whatever is happening, then doubts and remorse and so forth will also be overcome. At that point then, the mind becomes really very clear, crystal clear and calm.
အဲ့ဒီလိုရှိမှတ်တဲ့စိတ်ဖြစ်တိုင်းဖြစ်တိုင်းမှာချိန်သားကြိုက်ဝိတက်လည်းပဲပါဝိတက်ဇာနေလည်းပါနေပြီအာယုန်နဲ့ရှိမှတ်တဲ့စိတ်နဲ့ထိမိတဲ့ဝိสารလည်းပဲပါနေပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒါဝိကလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်နိဗ္ဗာန်တရားတွေမှာကင်းဝေးစိတ်နေခြင်းဆိုတာပေါ့လေဖြစ်လာတယ်
When the first two jhanic factors of vitakka and vichara are present, it is said that that state of consciousness is called viveka. It is a secluded consciousness. It is secluded because it is far away from the hindrances which we talked about just now.
အဲ့ဒီလိုဝိကဖြစ်လာတော့စိတ်ကလေးတွေမှာနှစ်သိအားရတဲ့ပီတိလေးတွေဖြစ်လာတယ်จิตတိမွေးကြီးထတယ်လို့ပေါ့လေဖြစ်လာတယ်ဒီမှာခါတခါလဲမကြာခဏပေါ့လေချက်စီးပြက်တယ်လို့ပေါ့လေဖြစ်လာတယ်တခါတခါမှလည်းပဲအပေါ်ကနေတစ်ခုနဲ့ခြုံချလိုက်တယ်လို့အောက်ကနေပြီးတော့လှိုက်လိုက်တက်လာတယ်လို့ပေါ့လေပီတိအသေးစားလေးတွေအားနေတဲ့ပီတိလေးတွေဖြစ်လာတယ်အဲ့ဒါပီတိဇာနေခေါ်ပါတယ်
When one achieves this mental seclusion, then one becomes quite joyous and one is filled with a lot of rapture and sense of satisfaction in one's practice. In that moment, one can be filled with feelings of goose flesh, for example, or experience of being suddenly dropped from somewhere, maybe like a feeling you might get in an elevator. Or sometimes one might feel that one is slowly being pushed upwards, that the body is slowly rising above. These are minor manifestations of rapture, which is a third jhanic factor. နှစ်သိအားရတဲ့ပီတိဇာနေလေးဖြစ်လာလို့ရှိရင်စုခခေါ်တဲ့ဇာနေတစ်ခုဖြစ်လာတယ်ဒီမှာနေလို့ထိုင်လို့ကောင်းလာတာပေါ့နိချမ်းသာလာတာ The fourth jhana factor comes very naturally when one becomes very satisfied with the practice, when there's a lot of rapture that arises. The mind and the body, both mind and body, feels tremendously comfortable. That comfort is called sukha in Pali, and that is the fourth jhanic factor. အဲ့ဒီပီတိနဲ့စုခကို
Sukha ha nivarana kinlo phitporla da mo့လို့သူတို့ကိုဝိကေကြပီတိစုခလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်
Viveka.
ဝိကနိဝရဏကင်းစိတ်ချင်းရောက်ကြဖြစ်ပေါ်လာသောပီတိစုခနှစ်တရတဲ့ပီတိနဲ့ချမ်းသာတဲ့ဒုက္ခ
Well, because both these third and fourth jhanic factors, rapture and happy comfort, come as a result of seclusion from the hindrances. They are called vivekaja. Vivekaja.
Vivekaja piti sukha.
Vivekaja piti sukha, which means rapture and comfort or happiness which arise, which are born out of seclusion.
ဒီမှာနည်းနည်းဆက်ဆက်ပြီးတော့ပြောချင်ပါသေးတယ်။ဘာဖြစ်လို့ဝိကဖြစ်ရသလဲလို့ဆိုတော့ဝိတက်နဲ့ဝိစာရရှိနေလို့တနည်းအားဖြင့်လည်းပဲအာယုန်နဲ့မှတ်စိတ်နဲ့ပေါ့လေချိန်သားကြိုက်ပြီးတော့ထိထိမိမိဖြစ်နေလို့နိဝရဏတရားတွေကင်းနေတဲ့ဝိကဖြစ်ရတာ။နိဝရဏတရားကင်းမှများတဲ့အခါကျတော့စိတ်တည်ကြည်လင်ပြီးတော့ဗလေနှစ်သိမ့်အားရတဲ့ပီတိတွေဖြစ်လာတာဒါပဲတော့နိဝရဏကင်းတာကဥဒေဝိစာရကြောင့်နှစ်သိမ့်အားရတဲ့ပီတိဖြစ်တာကနိဝရဏကင်းလို့ဖြစ်လာတယ်ဆိုတာဒီမှာကြောင်းကျိုးလေးတွေဆက်ပြီးတော့ဆိုင်ငါလေးတွေပေါ်လာပါတယ်
It may be useful to understand at this point the relationship between these aspects of jhanic factors and seclusion of mind in terms of cause and effect. Now, the seclusion of mind comes about because of the presence of the first two jhanic factors. If the mind is accurately aimed at the object of meditation and hits the object of meditation and rubs it, so to speak, in a very firm way, then that sort of process, if continued, will bring about seclusion of the mind from hindrances. So one can see that seclusion of mind occurs as a result of the first two jhanic factors. Now the third and the fourth jhanic factors of rapture and happiness and comfort occur because of this seclusion of mind, because the mind is secluded from the hindrances. One feels really very joyous and happy and comfortable.
နေလို့ထိုင်လို့ကောင်းလို့ရှိရင်စိတ်ကလည်းပဲမပြေးမပြတ်တော့ရောက်ရမခတ်တော့ဘူးငြိမ့်လာတယ်ရွှေရအောင်လေးပေါ်မှာဖောင်းနာလေးမှားလိုက်ဖောင်းနာပေါ်မှာစုကလေးဆက်ကလေးကတ်ကြပိန်နာပေါ်မှာစုကလေးဆက်ကလေးကတ်ကြတော့အခြားပေါ်ရလေးတွေပေါ်မှာစုကလေးဆက်ကလေးကတ်ကြနေတဲ့စိတ်ရဆူဆီးမှုဧကကရာခေါ်တဲ့သမာဓိလည်းဖြစ်လာတယ်သမာဓိဆံဖြစ်လာတယ်
With these four factors of aim, of rubbing, of rapture and happiness well developed, or rather when these four factors are present, the mind very automatically becomes very calm and peaceful. It is able to concentrate on what is happening without being scattered, without dispersing, without being dissipated. So when one is aware, one is being mindful of whatever is happening in the moment, then this one-pointedness of mind occurs in conjunction with aim and rubbing and joy and happiness. So this one-pointedness of mind or concentration is the fifth jhanic factor.
Padamasa, Uvatana Padamasa, Pibi Sonzo, Pibi Loro, Tiloro, Mabiolo Babu. Dabi Melo, Uvatana, Upazarasa, Senloto, Yaula Bilu, Suapabe. Yona la Panchati Lame, Jojo la Tilame solution, Uvatana Padamasa, La Sin Yaula Babi. Kali, Upazarasa, Senloto Yaula Babi.
Even with these five jhanic factors present in one's consciousness, it will not be proper to say that one has attained the first Vipassana jhana. When the mind is composed in such wise, then it will gradually penetrate into the Dhamma. It will come to understand or be able to distinguish in a very intuitive way mind from matter, and be able to comprehend their relatedness, their interrelationship in terms of cause and effect. When that happens, one can say that the Vipassana Upajara, the first Vipassana Upajara jhana has occurred. That is, the first Vipassana excess jhana.
Di Kaita Maleve Yogiga Taya Mulidi Pita de Heda Lady Mamami Lucy Mandai Madiro, Taya Mupita de Taya Bungaro, I will never seen a day Nivala Suvido. Tirule Taya Dore. I will never seen a TDB Pini Vala Suvido. Tiruleve Swellan Taya de 2 option. Niti ada bidina niya thaya da kaung ne chanda li sait tည်ငြိမ်မှုလေးတွေဖြစ်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ယောဂီကစွဲသွားပြီတဲ့ဟုတ်ပါလားတဲ့နေရာကြပါလားဆိုပြီးတော့စွဲသွားပြီဒီမှာသို့တော့အဲ့ဒီစွဲသွားတဲ့တဏှာကတော့အပြင်ကာမဂုဏ်အာယုန်နေနဲ့ဆက်ပြီးတော့ဖြစ်တဲ့တဏှာမဟုတ်ဘူးတရားအားထုတ်လို့និဝရဏတရားတွေကင်းပြီးတော့ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့မိမိရဲ့တဏှာမှာဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့ခုနတရားကောင်းလေးတွေပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါလေးတွေပေါ်မှာတရားရတာလေးတွေပေါ်မှာတာရတာပါပဲအဲ့ဒါအထဲရတယ်လို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်
A yogi who is at this particular stage of practice tends to get caught up in his or her experience. The mind that is composed of these 5 jhanic factors will be something quite novel to the yogi. He or she will be able to experience an accuracy and precision of mindfulness, and that could be an object of attachment. Wow, my meditation is really great. Now I'm getting more and more precise. Or the second jhanic factor could be manifest. One could see that one's mind is able not only to be accurate, but to stick with the object of meditation. Again, that is another object that could be another object of attachment. One can really get very big-headed, thinking of how successful one has been after all this while. And the third jhanic factor of rapture needs no special mention. Very easily get caught up in rapture and happiness and comfort of mind and body. And the And this attachment to what is happening within us is actually a manifestation of craving. But it's a special sort of craving. It's not a craving that has anything to do with sensual pleasures. It is a craving that comes out of one's meditative practice. And if such a craving arises, and one is unable to be aware of it, that means that one is staying within. Well, time is caught up again, and Sayadaw says that so much for stopping inside, and it's time to stop the lecture tonight.